Oh guys, this is fun.
Ready?
Yeah,
Well, it could be like just like talking to.
just talk. علقوا من فوق كده وعمل جيبهولي.
We wanted to see if we could use this experience to raise awareness for a very important cause, and we thought the plight of refugees is the biggest crisis facing humanity today, and at the time. I was working quite closely with the UN. I'm a former UNDP Goodwill Ambassador, so we reached out to UNHCR and we decided from the get-go that we were going to do this for refugees. We had no idea that we would actually, for those 13 hours, we would live an experience. We thought it was a similar experience, but we learned through our journey that, despite the fact we went through something so harrowing and we almost lost our lives several times during those hours, and actually those 9 days up to the capsize, that they were very different experiences. We had a choice. We had the best equipment. We did the best training. And then after we capsized, and after we lost our passports, we lost our money, we lost our cards, we lost everything, and we were saved. Within 2-3 weeks, we were back to our families. And so to think the level of desperation that you could have to attempt something like this, knowing that it's your only choice, is something that really hit home for us. And so we set out, really invested in this cause, and came back far more invested and emotionally connected to it.
It wasn't one moment where everything went wrong. There were several moments when everything went wrong, okay? And there's several moments when we thought everything was going to go right and it flipped back around. Our whole day was an emotional roller coaster. But I would say that we capsized around 7:53 a.m., right 10 minutes before sunrise. And it was during right before a shift change where Omar was rowing, and then he finishes rowing. Our shift change was at 8. 7:53 is when the capsize happened. And look, for me, it was very crystal clear that I have two thoughts that ran my mind immediately. I said, no, not like this. And I meant not like this. I didn't think the race was over. I was like, I don't want the race to end like this. I want to break a world record. I want to win the race, right? And the second thing is not like this. Like, I don't want to die like this. This is not the way I pictured it, Not that I picture dying a lot, but I mean, it's not the way I pictured it. And the second thing is like, what have you just done to your family? For what? For the adventure, for the thrill, for the experience, for the enjoyment. And now this is going to be the darkest hours of their lives. So for me, those were very crystal clear, like, oh my God. But then things kept on going wrong. And that's what the film is about, right? Like, it's a comedy of errors, and at some point we just had to laugh about it. Even during this insanity, during the fact that we could potentially lose our lives, we actually had to laugh about it because, the life raft didn't inflate, the EPIRB, the emergency beacon, didn't fire, obviously the boat didn't self-right, the water is cold. Oh, we happen to be in great white shark hunting territory. Oh, the waves are 8 to 10 meters high and 80 km/h winds. It was just everything kept on going wrong, and the moment that I thought we were saved and we saw that ship and we looked at each other and we just hugged. Guys, I mean, it's so hard to explain. Like, it was the most amazing experience of our feeling in the world, right? And we just hugged each other, a bear hug. We made it. Little did we realize that the next 6 hours of our lives would be the most treacherous 6 hours, because the process of getting up on the boat, that was complete and utter insanity. And it went from, oh, you're gonna die from hypothermia in 6 hours, to this is gonna happen, or that's to, oh my God, you're gonna get flung into that ship and you're gonna die in the next 10 seconds. And that was pretty intense. And I can honestly say that we didn't count our chicks before they hatched. Like, the only time I felt like we were truly 100% safe is when we were both on board of that ship. And I had no idea whether Omar made it or not, because Omar was stuck in a situation where I ended up getting pulled away from it and I couldn't see what was going on. So I had no idea whether Omar was dead or alive until I actually made it on the ship and I see him just right there. And that feeling, I can tell you, was amazing. That bear hug, that like, yeah, we made it. And the adrenaline was so much, my legs were like, we're jumping like that. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
I mean, the situation was pretty horrific, right? So if we had tried to verbalize what we were thinking, it would have just been like doom and gloom all over. And so we tried to make light of the situation. I remember when we first saw the ship pull up, it was a massive ship. This is a 200 meter, 35,000 ton vessel. We could see the name of the ship Kefalonia from a very big distance, and it sounds like a Greek vessel. It was actually turned out to be a German-Greek vessel. We thought that the worst was over. We thought when the ship pulled up that was the end of it, and like Omar said, this was the start of the worst part of the rescue. But when we saw it, Omar started going on about how he loves Greek food, and like within half an hour we'll be we're going on about this. The other thing was that Omar was telling me that if we get out of this thing, we're gonna go to Abu Sid, and you're gonna invite me for dinner, and he actually told me every single item on the menu that he wanted, and I was like, listen, anything that you want, let's just get out of the situation. I'll get you anything you want.
Wait, can I say something? He actually he delivered. Yeah, tell him about that.
Yeah, so we actually months later, he lives in Dubai, I live in Cairo. He came in, he cashed in on this, and we actually met up with two of the guys, because some of the people on that vessel that saved us were Egyptian, complete and utter coincidence. And we invited them. They spent most of their life at sea, but they were on shore. They would drive into Alexandria. They drove to Cairo, and we had this lunch together, and it was surreal and the bond between us. I mean, Omar and I are now really close, more like brothers than just friends. And those guys we hadn't seen since the capsize, but the bond that was created between us is something, it's beyond description. When I came back, I was invited to the UNHCR office to tell the story. Director Marco Orsini happened to be there. I don't think it was the intention of making a film, but they were like, this is an interesting story, you might want to hear it. And then Marco decided, with the sort of this director sense, that he would make a film out of it.
The one thing about Marco, I mean, honestly, and don't tell him I said this, but he's a genius, right? He's a genius because he's dealing with very little footage, very little raw footage. He's got to recreate the story with talking heads. He's dealing with two big personalities, right? And that lived a very personal story. So the whole process of making the film logistically was very difficult. From a perspective of how much footage we had was very difficult. With the perspective with having the two O's, going at it and having very personal story was very difficult. So the fact that it happened, that he did it well, that he used the footage that we had and complemented it beautifully with our families, with our interviews, and to see it all culminate 18 months. It was probably harder than the ocean, not quite harder than the ocean, but almost as hard as the ocean, right? Into yesterday, and having the standing ovation, and seeing Marco being recognized for what he did. It was a very special moment. We had a couple of group hugs. We did a bunch of group hugs yesterday.